Hello! Good evening and good morning sa inyong lahat. Good evening sa mga nasa Pinas at sa nasa ibang bahagi naman ng ating mundo. Sa kabilang panig, magandang umaga. Ako po si Doc Fee Atencio.
Magandang gabi sa Pilipinas, magandang tanghali dito sa gitnang silangang Asya, at magandang umaga, magandang gabi sa ibang parte ng Pilipinas. Si Dr. Suzette from my Low Carb MD.
Yes, and tonight, ito na yung mga pinaka-abang-abang ng lahat, Doc Suzette. Ang ating i-discuss ngayon, one of the most controversial topic.
Ready ka na ba?
Not exactly the most controversial topic, but
one of the
confusing.
Yeah.
Like confusing topic of low carb, and I am sure that marami dito, hindi lang layperson, Doc, kundi pati mga kapwa natin health professionals ay nalilito sa topic na ito because sounds alike, no? Halos parang parehas yung termino na ginagamit. So, before anything else, we have 22 viewers right now. Napakapalad ng mga nakarating ng maaga. Sa mga hindi po makakarating, habol-habol. Yes, habol-habol lang po kayo dyan.
Pero sa akin, I think hindi lang siya confusing. It's not confusing for me. Para sa akin, it's still controversial pa din.
Yes.
Itong topic na i-discuss natin sa araw.
Why do you think so, Doc, na it is controversial for you in your perspective as well, even though we're doing it?
Kasi there's still school of thoughts, different school of thoughts. Nagkaiba pa din. The others who yung mga nakakakita ng labs, na nag-i-interpret ng labs, is iba pa rin yung kanilang perception. Maybe because pag pumasok kasi sa isip nila to, automatic, ang sagot nila is ganito. Hindi na pumapasok sa isip nila yung ibang aspeto. Okay? Hindi ko binabanggit kasi I don't want to preempt kung ano man yung magiging discussion sa gabing ito. Pero yun yung nakikita ko. And pagka kasi sinabi kasi na merong nakitang ganito kagad, parang masama kagad eh. Maabot sa utak, nakakamatay. Ganun yung perception.
And we are here to actually correct the misconception, or at the same time, magbigay tayo ng isang bagay na pwedeng pag-isipan. It's just to ignite curiosity, and at the same time, it is something for all people to think about, and at the same time, gusto natin na talagang mas mag-aral at mas unawain, mas intindihin ng tao kung ano nga ba itong itatalakayin natin. Somehow, let's just say that hindi naman tayo dito to prove a thing.
No, we're not proving a thing. Definitely,
we are here to just give people something to think about and something to parang ignite their curiosity para somehow, start from here. Kasi kung hindi kayo curious, you will not study anymore. So kailangan meron kayong mag-trigger sa inyo. And we are so happy to become that trigger na kayo ay mas mag-aral. And
sa akin kumbaga sa akin, kung pumasok kayo sa library, maraming libro. Yes. Hindi lahat ng libro is ang direction is diretso. May librong papunta sa kanan, may librong papunta sa kaliwa. So, kung sila ay nandun sa kanan, sabihin na natin tayo yung nasa kaliwa. And meron tayo ding mga sets of facts at sets of evidence-based medicine na masasabi natin na ito yung aspeto na tinitignan natin. Hindi lang yung kabilang side. Remember, there's always two sides of the coin, two sides of the story, and we are here to present our story. Hindi dahil sa kung ano pa man.
And I'm so excited. And at the same time, sabi ko nga, it's kind of challenging for me to present this. Kasi even if I know this by heart, bilang ito yung dapat unang alam mo. If you're a physician, of course, na gagawa ng low carb and fasting and magmamanage using this type of management, kailangan alam mo to. But then, sabi ko nga, meron pa ring part sa'yo na, oh my gosh, it's challenging because I am gonna be presenting this to the public. But I am also very happy na we get the chance to, okay, sige, himay-himayin na natin ngayong gabi. At ngayong gabi natin umpisahan ang mas malawak na usapin tungkol sa nutritional ketosis and diabetic ketoacidosis. So, sit back and relax, everyone, and I hope na nagkiketosis na din kayo ngayon so that everything will be clearly understood. Mas maganda, mental clarity. So magandang gabi, meron tayong mga, andyan si Doc Bry. Hello, Doc Bry. Andito sila, Doc Bry, watching us.
Good evening,
and I know
Doc
that
Bry.
everyone is really excited about this topic as well. And I am, ewan ko ba, Doc Suzette, alam mo, tinatapat ko to sa'yo pero sa akin pa rin talaga napunta. Ang galing-galing mo talaga pumili ng topic. So without further ado, let us discuss about the nutritional ketosis and diabetic ketoacidosis. So here is our slide. Okay. So everyone, I hope na kayo po ay talagang tapos na yung iba yung mga gawain, ang inyong mga sarili ay nandito na sa amin para makinig dahil uumpisahan natin ngayong gabi ang mas malawak pa na discussion or mas malawak na pag-aaral ninyo at pag-iisip ninyo regarding this one. Isa kasi ito sa pinakakinatatakutan ng lahat. And ngayon ay pag-uusapan natin ang isa sa mga controversial na low carb and keto diet issues na mas lalong na pag-uusapan ngayon, Doc. I may not know why because I'm kind of detoxifying sa SOCMED and I know that everyone knows that. But nagiging sanay siya ng takot kasi ang daming nagtatanong ngayon about ketoacidosis, diabetic ketoacidosis. So, isa siya sa mga nagiging takot ng mga taong nais din mag-try ng low carbohydrate and ketogenic diet. So, ketones and ketosis has always been associated to ketoacidosis. And of course, sabi nga natin, magkatunog sila, ketosis, ketones, and ketoacidosis. And guilty as charged, Dr. Suzette, the first time I heard about ketosis and ketones, ang una ko ring naisip ay ketoacidosis. So I was like, really, they're doing the low carb and ketogenic diet? Won't that be dangerous to our patient? But I also fear about ketoacidosis noon. So, sino ba naman ang hindi, di ba, Doc? Lahat naman tayo, nakakita na tayo sa field natin ng mga pasyente who suffered from this case. But ketones and ketosis are different from ketoacidosis. At ngayong gabi ay ating pag-aaralan, tutuklasin natin ng pagkakaiba ng mga ito. So, let us begin to talk about nutritional ketosis and ketoacidosis. Right. So, noong mid-19th century na diskubre ang ketones sa ihi ng mga pasyente na may uncontrolled diabetes. At dahil dito nagkaroon ng negatibong konotasyon sa ketones ang medical field, right? So, ketones has used to indicate that a patient is having a metabolic dysfunction. And this knowledge persisted for more than 150 years. Imagine, we have been fearing ketones for 150 years. And ang alam ng lahat ng health professionals, ang ketones ay toxic na byproduct ng fat metabolism. But what is ketone ba talaga? So ketones are primarily circulating fatty acid metabolite, which are beta-hydroxybutyrate, acetoacetate, and acetone. So, ano bang ibig sabihin ng metabolite? So, when there is a metabolism, of course, there is a byproduct, and that is the metabolite. And here, we are talking about the byproduct of fat metabolism. So, ketones can be used as energy by different cells, kahit pa ng utak, kahit pa ng puso, ng muscles, at iba pa. And unlike glucose, guys, ang ketones doesn't need insulin para maipasok siya sa loob ng cells. Remember that. Ketones can actually go inside the cell and can be processed and be converted into energy inside the cell even with absence ng insulin. So that is how important ketones is. And ketones are produced in the liver. Ibig sabihin, sa liver siya mismo nake-create o nabubuo. Lalo na kapag mababa na ang level ng ating insulin, and ang glucagon naman natin ay mataas na, enough to result into lipolysis. So, ano ba yung lipolysis? Lipolysis is actually the breaking down of fat. So, meaning if you have subcutaneous fat, visceral fat, pag yan ay na-break down, so nagkakaroon ng tinatawag na lipolysis. At nangyayari lamang yan kapag mababa na yung level ng insulin. Kasi di ba sinasabi nga natin na kapag mataas ang insulin, there will never be a fat breakdown or just minimal. And at the same time, pag mataas din ang insulin, of course, there will be no fat burning. So that is the reason why. So kapag bumaba na yung insulin level, meron kasing isang hormone na tumataas, which is the counter-regulatory, and that is glucagon, na nilalabas din ng pancreas. So, kapag tumas si glucagon, bumaba si insulin, then, pwede na mag-proceed yung lipolysis or fat breakdown. And, kapag nagkaroon ng fat breakdown, nagkakaroon tayo ng free na fatty acids. So, pagmasdan ninyo yung naka-flash sa inyong screen para mas lalo ninyong maintindihan. So, in the event na mababa na yung ating insulin at tumaas yung glucagon, because these two are actually inhibitory to each other. Pag mataas ang glucagon, mababa si insulin. Pag mataas si insulin, mababa syempre si glucagon. And it happens like, for example, you have siguro minimal carb intake, tumataas yung insulin, nai-inhibit si glucagon. And then afterwards, medyo nag-fasting ka or natulog ka, tapos hindi naman ganun kataas yung carb intake mo. When you sleep, of course, by that time, bumababa na yung level ng sugar, bumababa na rin yung level ng insulin. And that is the time that tumataas yung glucagon. Okay? So, yun yung pinaka-best example nito. So, what happens? Nagkakaroon ng lipolysis. And lipolysis, it is the release of fatty acids from adipose tissue. And when we say adipose tissue, lahat ng taba sa katawan natin. So, yung lipolysis, nagkakaroon ng fat breakdown and nagre-release yung fatty acid. And yung fatty acid na yan, sumasama sa circulation, sa ating bloodstream, papunta na sa ating atay. At sa atay, nagkakaroon ng ketone production. So, thereby the term ketogenesis. Remember this. Production, kaya genesis, right? Ketone production is called ketogenesis. So, ketosis naman, it is a metabolic state in our body where there is a release of ketones into our blood or circulation. Meaning, kapag meron ng ketone bodies na umiikot sa ating circulation, ito na ay tinatawag na ketosis. So now, I want na mas maging malinaw sa atin ang sumusunod na termino. When you say ketones, ito ay produkto ng fat metabolism. Ito yung ketones na nagagawa ng katawan from fatty acid. When we say ketogenesis, it is the process o proseso ng paggawa ng ketones na nangyayari sa ating atay. And when you say ketosis naman, ito ay estado or metabolic state sa loob ng ating katawan na kung saan yung ketones ay nare-release na at umiikot na kasama ng ating circulation. So yung ating atay ay gumagawa po yan ng ketones all the time. Okay? That may be surprising for you to know, but that is the truth. Ang ating atay is actually doing ketones all the time. But yung dami kasi ng ginagawa natin ketones, yung dami ng napoproduce at magnitude, kung gaano kataas ang ketosis sa katawan natin ay nakadepende sa diet natin at iba pang condition. So there are conditions in the body where mas mataas yung magnitude ng ketosis. Like for example, 'di ba, pag may infection, may fever. That's the reason why yung ibang tao pag may fever sila, mas mataas yung ketones in their body. And that could be one of the condition. So in terms of the diet, if we consume high amounts of carbs and even protein kapag mataas din yung amount nun in such a level that stimulates insulin, to a level na pinipigil niya yung fat breakdown, then ketogenesis will work in idle lang. Meaning, medyo-medyo lang or tipong minimal lang magtrabaho. So, may mababang ketones pa rin na umiikot sa dugo ng isang high-carb eater. Pero not enough for it to provide energy sa katawan and not enough to even signal an effect sa katawan natin. Meaning, even if we are carb eater or high carb eater or carb burner, there is still a very minimal amount of ketones circulating in our body. So in this picture, you can see that we have different levels of ketones sa katawan natin, and I will explain to you each of these level. So this is from a study by Virta Health. You can access this. Actually, most ng mga i-explain namin dito, we can post yung mga references namin on a separate post para pwede rin ninyong aralin on your own. Sa isang carb burner, ang level ng ketones nila is only 0.0 to 0.5 millimole. Yun lang, ganun lang kababa. Okay? But meron pa rin. It's just that it's not enough for the body para mag-switch into fat utilization. Ibig sabihin, sobrang baba niya para ma-identify siya ng katawan na pwede itong maging energy source ko. So meaning, carb-dependent ka pa rin or carb pa rin yung ginagamit mo as energy. And then, there is a nutritional ketosis level when you become fat burner. So it happens kapag ka naka-low carb ka and ketogenic diet kung saan we limit the carb intake. Nililimitahan na natin ang carbs para mas mababa yung asukal ng ating dugo. At kapag mababa na yung asukal sa dugo, bumababa na rin yung level ng insulin. Yung concentration ng insulin. And the decrease in insulin triggers ketogenic pathway. Review. Kapag mababa yung insulin, nawawala yung pag-inhibit sa pag-burn at paggamit ng fat. Thereby, every time that our insulin level becomes low, nagkakaroon ng trigger sa ketogenic pathway. Meaning, nagbe-breakdown na tayo ng fat. Kaya tumataas na rin yung level ng ketogenesis o pag-produce ng ketones. And the ketone level can go up from 0.5 to 2.0. Yet, if you have to, you have to understand that low carb, guys, doesn't always mean ketosis. And alam na alam natin yan. There are people who might go into ketosis in a low carb diet, but that depends on how insulin resistant or hyperinsulin that person is. Because kung to begin with, hyperinsulinemic ka, yung low carb might not be enough to put your body into nutritional ketosis. Or, if you are coupling it with fasting, pwede rin na hindi stable, pwedeng nagfa-fluctuate yung ketone levels mo. Meaning, kapag ka nagfa-fasting ka along with low carb, there are times na naaabot mo yung ketosis, but then there are times na bumabalik ka ulit sa paggamit ng carb. So maraming factor yan. And so what we are gonna talk about is ketogenic diet. Because somehow, most people needs to limit down their carbohydrate into 20 grams dahil ito yung nakitaan na talagang nakakapag-trigger ng nutritional ketosis or pagtaas ng ketone sa katawan. And exercise can actually induce also yung gawa ng ketones. That's why some people, kunwari, naka-ketogenic diet na sila, tas nag-exercise pa sila, mas tumataas pa yung ketones nila into 3.0 hanggang minsan 5 ang level. And then it can go back to normal and usual level kapag nagamit na nila yung energy. Now, we're going to talk about starvation. Yung starvation, may makikita kayo dyan na starvation ketosis. So yung starvation ketosis, by the word itself, starvation, ito yung kapag hindi ka kumakain ng anything na may caloric content. Meaning, water has no calories, of course. But some people can even do dry fasting or even have no availability ng food and water. Like for example, mababalitaan nyo, di ba, meron tayong yung sa mga sakuna, yung sa mga calamities and all, kunwari biglang nag-earthquake, nadaganan sila, na-trap sila, and then ilang linggo pero buhay pa rin sila. Even though they're starving, they don't have water, they don't have anything to eat, but when they were rescued, they survived. And starvation ketosis could be happening sa mga tao na to, wherein somehow isa tong protective process kasi dito nanggagaling yung energy nila. Even though wala na silang kinakain, even though wala silang water and food intake, because their body are using ingredients from their own, from their muscle, from their fats, para sa ganon gamitin yon during this time. And yun nga yung napaka ganda pa rin no, na binigay sa atin na process na to, kasi even though we're starving in this type of circumstances, pwede pa rin tayong mag-survive at some point. But you need to understand na hindi ito sustainable, and of course, hindi ito advisable. And it deprives our body of nutrients, nagkakaroon din ng muscle loss and other dangerous na side effect. And now, the ketoacidosis, okay, so which we will discuss, but you have to understand this first, no? Kailangan maging aware tayo sa difference ng hyperketonemia versus ketoacidosis. Because hyperketonemia means mataas yung level ng ketone sa blood natin. But not all cases of hyperketonemia will lead to ketoacidosis, because there is a certain level on which our body would become acidotic. May level kung kailan hindi na healthy ang lahat ng values sa katawan natin at pwede na siyang mag-create ng acidosis. So kung titignan nyo dito, ketoacidosis is actually nandun na sa red level. It's the 10.0 millimole pataas. And sinasabi din even sa Harrison's, no, wherein this is a textbook for internal medicine, the ketone level of those that have ketoacidosis are actually 10 folds or 10 times the normal na ketones in the body. All right? So now let's go to the most exciting part. Painom muna ng tubig. Ay, wala pala yung tubig. Nauhaw ako. Okay. So this is the diabetic ketoacidosis. So syempre, kaya nga diabetic ketoacidosis dahil ang prerequisite ay diabetic ka. Unang-una sa lahat. And may criteria po na kinakompleto for DKA. And this is hyperglycemia, meaning mataas ang concentration ng asukal sa dugo. There is positive ketones in both urine and blood. And at the same time, acidosis, which is being measured by pH pH level ng dugo. But mind you, there are euglycemic ketoacidosis. Pero para hindi kayo ma-confuse, hindi ko muna yon i-discuss. Kasi yung euglycemic meaning normal naman yung blood sugar nila, pero meron pa rin silang ketoacidosis. So what we're going to discuss now is the diabetic ketoacidosis. So remember these three criteria. Una, mataas na mataas muna yung sugar, yung blood sugar level. There is ketones, positive ketones in blood and in urine, and there is acidosis, meaning if we measure the pH level of the blood, there is an acidosis. And of course, tinitignan din yan kung metabolic acidosis siya. And hindi ko na rin i-discuss yun kasi madugo. So ngayon, what happens? Ito yung nangyayari. Although DKA is actually most common to type 1, it can also happen to type 2 diabetes mellitus. And as a review, type 1 is the absolute insulin deficiency, meaning pag type 1 ka, hindi na gumagana yung beta cell ng pancreas mo, so hindi na siya gumagawa ng insulin. But we also have this relative insulin deficiency. And when we say relative insulin deficiency, this can happen to, alam niyo yung konti na lang yung gumagana. Like for example, sa mga LADA na hindi pa sobrang sira yung kanilang mga beta cells, meron pa silang kaunti, pero insufficient. And there are also type 2 diabetes na for example, hindi sila na-diagnose. Just 10 years or 15 years na pala silang diabetic, and some of their cells ay hindi na pala masyadong gumagana kasi exhausted na, pagod na pagod na. So, hindi na nag-work lang ng maayos, not functioning well. Nagkakaroon ng relative insulin deficiency na tinatawag. So, kulang na din yung insulin ng ating katawan. So, both type 1 and type 2 can actually have experience diabetic acidosis. So, dahil kulang yung ating insulin, hindi makapasok yung glucose sa loob ng cell. Alam naman nating lahat kung anong function ng insulin. Ang function ng insulin is to help the glucose to enter the cell kasi sila yung nagsisilbi na parang usher or sila yung nag-escort para sa ganun mabuksan yung gate ng cell at makapasok yung glucose. So of course, if you don't have insulin or if you have insulin deficiency and insufficient yung insulin mo, mahihirapan po na pumasok yung glucose sa loob ng ating cell. And ang masaklap pa niyan, no, sa labas ng cell, at sa circulation, concentrated na yung asukal mo. Nagsisiksikan na sila, ang dami ng asukal sa labas. Pero sa loob ng cell, yung cell mo ay gutom na gutom pa. Kasi walang pumapasok na any form of energy sa kanya. Dahil nga, either insulin resistant pa siya, kulang pa yung insulin. Alam niyo yung ganun, parang naghalo-halo na, lalo na sa mga type 2. Ito yung nangyayari sa kanila. So, there is a decreased glucose uptake in the cell, which causes hyperglycemia. So, dahil naiipon ng sugar sa dugo at di na makapasok sa cell, nagkakaroon na ng hyperglycemia o sobrang taas ng asukal sa ating dugo. And dahil din mababa ang ating insulin level, tumataas ang glucagon. Diba sabi nga natin, sila ay inhibitory sa isa't isa. Kapag mataas ang glucagon, mababa ang insulin. Pag mataas naman ang insulin, mababa ang glucagon. So dito, dahil meron tayong absolute insulin deficiency and relative insulin deficiency, walang nag-i-inhibit kay glucagon. Meaning, free si glucagon, tumataas din yung level niya. At kapag tumataas ang level ng glucagon, ano naman po ang mangyayari? So si glucagon kasi, siya yung nag-uutos sa katawan natin na gumawa ng asukal sa pamamagitan ng gluconeogenesis and glucolysis. So, meaning, kaya din pagtulog tayo, hindi pa rin, di ba? Usually, iba nagtataka, nag-fasting ako, Doc, pero amazing, kahit pala 12 hours kang hindi kumain. Normal pa rin yung blood sugar. Akala ko nag-hypogly ang isang taong hindi kumakain ng 12 hours, pero mine is still high. It's still on the normal level of 60 to 100. Bakit? Kasi during the time na mababa na yung insulin mo, tumataas yung glucagon. And glucagon is actually one of the trigger para gumawa yung katawan mo ng glucose on its own. So, anong nangyayari dyan? There is glucolysis. Actually, it's glycogenolysis. It's a wrong term because dapat yung glycogen, yun yung bine-breakdown. And then, gluconeogenesis is the pagpoproduce ng glucose from ingredients such as amino acids. So, nagkakaroon tayo ng paggawa ng sarili nating glucose. And dahil doon, imagine, concentrated na po yung sugar sa dugo. Kasi nga, hindi siya nakakapasok sa cell at hindi rin siya nagagamit ng cell. But at the same time, because yung glucagon natin ay mataas din, nagtutuloy-tuloy din yung paggawa natin ng sarili pa nating asukal. So, ano nangyayari? Nagdadagdag pa yung ginagawa ng katawan natin on its own na asukal doon sa dati ng concentrated na asukal sa dugo natin, which worsens the hyperglycemia. Okay? And next, there is also muscle breakdown and protein breakdown. Insulin actually is protective also of the muscle. It's also kasi anabolic hormone ito eh. But if you have insulin deficiency and at the same time, kahit nga kapag ka-insulin resistant ka na, kasi hindi ka na rin nakikinig doon sa sa function ng insulin mo, you will have proteolysis. And what happens is nagkakaroon ng breakdown sa muscle and protein breakdown, and the resulting increase in amino acid can also be an ingredient to the gluconeogenesis, thereby tataas na naman lalo yung ating blood sugar kasi nga nagsanga-sanga na sila. So dahil mas maraming ingredients din na pwedeng gamitin para gumawa ng sugar, tumataas pa lalo at nakakadagdag pa lalo ito sa sugar na dati nang umiikot sa ating circulation. And we have lipolysis. So lipolysis is the fat breakdown. Big sabihin yan, every time kasi na mababa yung insulin, di ba? Lagi nating sinasabi, paulit-ulit. If there are insulin deficiency, ang nangyayari niyan, we are breaking down fats. And kapag nagbe-breakdown tayo ng fats, we have free fatty acids that can be converted into ketones sa liver, thereby production of ketones and ketoacidosis resulted why? Hindi naman lahat ng pag-produce ng ketone nagre-result sa ketoacidosis. But there is an abnormal increase of ketones because there is no inhibitory factor. Ibig sabihin, in a normal physiology, kapag normal ang katawan mo, or kapag ka nako-control at namamanage ang iyong condition, supposed to be, everything is on balance. Hindi dapat tumataas yung level ng ketones mo into such level that can be damaging to you. Because in this scenario, everything is very high. At sasabihin ko sa inyo mamaya yung value para magulat kayo na, okay, ganito pala. Kaya pala nagkakaroon ng diabetic ketoacidosis. So what happens here? Sobrang taas ng sugar because, number 1, sabi natin kanina, hindi nakakapasok sa loob ng cell yung sugar. Pangalawa, dumadagdag pa yung asukal dahil gumagawa pa rin yung katawan mo ng sarili niyang asukal. Pangatlo, dumadami rin yung ingredients o rekado para makagawa ka ng sarili mong asukal. So lahat yon nakakadagdag sa pagtaas ng asukal sa dugo. And at the same time, wala rin nag-i-inhibit sa paggawa mo ng ketones. Also, you must understand, the cell is gutom. Yung cell mo, hindi siya nakakahigop ng sugar. So, it's also telling your brain, I need energy. Anong gagawin ng katawan mo? Ang sugar, kailangan niya ng insulin para makapasok sa cell. So, ang gagawin niya, okay, di gawa tayong ketones kasi ang ketones will not need any insulin for you to have energy. Thereby, lalo pang tumataas yung production mo ng ketones. But, because yung regulation nito ay abnormal na to begin with, yung ketones mo sobrang taas niya to a level that is not already healthy. And sobrang taas niya that it already creates imbalance and at the same time, yung alkali ng body natin, yung alkaline, is already dysregulated. So, nagkakaroon ng acidosis. And also, you have to understand, in a hyperglycemic na environment sa katawan, our kidney compensate. Ibig sabihin niyan, tumutulong siya. Gusto lang naman niyang makatulong eh. So yung kidney natin, anong gagawin? Dahil gusto niyang mabawasan yung sugar, iniihi niya ng iniihi para at some point mabawasan. Pero ang nangyayari, lalo tayong nade-dehydrate. So pag nade-dehydrate tayo, pati some electrolyte imbalance will happen. And anong nangyayari? Nagkakaroon ng hyperglycemic hyperosmolar state. Doc, ano po ba yung hyperglycemic hyperosmolar state? It happens when, parang ganito yan eh, isang kutsara ng iced tea sa 100 ml na tubig versus isang kutsarang iced tea powder sa 500 ml na tubig. Magkakaiba siya ng concentration because of the dami ng iyong ginamit na tubig, right? And in hyperglycemic hyperosmolar state, that is a state of the body na kung saan sobrang taas ng concentration ng blood sugar dahil dehydrated na rin yung katawan mo. Bagsak na kasi yung fluid mo. So concentrated na siya sa katawan. Thereby, ang nangyayari, dahil sa circulation sobrang concentrated din, hinihigop pa niya lalo yung ibang tubig na nasa cell. So, cellular level, nagiging dehydrated ka din. And when that happens, nagkakaroon na tayo ng iba't ibang mga symptoms ng electrolyte imbalances, hyperglycemia, and ketoacidosis, and that is diabetic ketoacidosis. Alright? So, if you have any question later, we will answer. But next, usual findings. If you have a blood sugar level that is consistently 250 milligram per DL and above, at the same time, you have ketonemia that is 10 times the healthy ketone level. Meaning, kapag ka kunwari, nagpresenta ka sa akin as a patient, tapos yung blood sugar mo nasa 256, 300, tapos pag ihi mo, nakita ko na rin, plus, halos 4 plus yung ketone level mo. And then you presented with me with increased heart rate, mataas yung bilang ng tibok ng puso mo at hirap ka huminga with signs of dehydration, kahit wala pang altered mental status, i-admit kita. Because that could be a sign of diabetic ketoacidosis already. And how much more if you presented with altered mental status, meaning confused ka na, may irritability, and the other altered mental status state. And who are those that are at risk for this? If you are undiagnosed diabetes. Now, some people say, nag-low carb ako, nag-keto ako, doc, tapos nagkaroon ako ng diabetic ketoacidosis. Why would you be diagnosed of diabetic ketoacidosis if you presented in the emergency room na normal naman yung sugar mo? Meaning, if wala kang sakit, nag-low carb ka, and you presented as a diabetic ketoacidosis, ibig sabihin, you have been a diabetic for such a long time and you do not know it, hindi ka na-diagnose or hindi ka nagpapa-check up, and it is already associated with the low-carb diet alone and ketogenic diet alone. But what we do not know is, dati ka na palang diabetic, long-standing, na kung saan unmanaged. Alright? Another is poorly managed diabetes. You were diagnosed before, and yet, hindi ka na-monitor, maybe lost to follow up, maybe hindi na rin talaga ikaw nag-comply to any management at all, hindi ka na nagda-diet, di ka pa umiinom ng gamot. That's the worst case. And yet, narinig mo, maganda si low carb, you just tried it yourself without any consultation, and this is what happened. So, you know what, guys, any good things, even good practices, if done in the wrong way, lahat yan meron kasing pangit na maidudulot sa inyo. Because, I want you to understand, even without the low-carb diet, alam din yan ni Doc Suzette, even without low-carb diet and ketogenic diet, diabetic ketoacidosis has been happening to most patients. So, ibig sabihin, hindi siya dahil lang sa diet or ketogenic diet. Because even if you're on high-carb diet, you can still suffer from diabetic ketoacidosis. And maraming pasyente ang hindi naman naka-low carb na nagda-diabetic ketoacidosis. That is the truth. Those patient, even if somehow they're managed, pero kapag nagkaroon sila ng concomitant infection, for example, nagkaroon sila ng urinary tract infection, nagkaroon ng pneumonia, the reason why high risk agad sila at ina-admit sila, especially kapag ka medyo fluctuating yung sugar and at the same time, poorly controlled, ina-admit agad yan sa hospital. Kasi sila din yung nagkakaroon ng risk to have diabetic ketoacidosis if hindi sila mabantayan. Bakit? If we have an infection, we are on a highly metabolic state. Meaning, pag highly metabolic state ka, your energy, lahat ng metabolism mo mabilis. And these are triggers for ketosis. And also alcohol, substance abuse, and certain medication. Like for example, if you're a diabetic patient and you're on a thiazide, ibig sabihin nagda-diuretic ka. And also if you are on SGL2 drug inhibitor, which is yung mga glucine, dapagliflozin, empagliflozin, and such, you are also at risk of having diabetic ketoacidosis. So what are the complications? Complications, of course, you could die. But some of the DKA patient can have heart attack and stroke. Bakit? Hyperglycemia alone can lead to severe inflammatory state kung saan nagre-release yung katawan natin ng pro-inflammatory, meaning pro-inflammatory, these are triggers of more inflammation sa katawan natin. Thereby, because of this, you are more prone to having inflammation either in your brain, in your kidney, in your heart. So you could have acute kidney disease or CKD, or you can have stroke and myocardial infarction. Meron kaming inadmit before na case na DKA siya pero namatay siya sa myocardial infarction or atake sa puso. And that is because of this state. So this one is the euglycemic diabetic ketoacidosis, which I will discuss to you na hindi naman sobrang lawak. Pero ito yung mga nagpe-presenta sa clinic na kung saan yung kanilang level of sugar is less than 250 milligrams per DL. Pero mind you, mataas pa rin yung 250 milligrams. So kunwari 240 or 200, it's still high. It's just that hindi kasi siya umabot dun sa cutoff ng diabetic ketoacidosis, which is more than 250 milligrams per DL. And most of these people are on a diabetic medication, which is the SGL2 inhibitors. And some of these people could be diabetic. And that is the reason why we are discouraging people to go on prolonged fasting kaagad if you're diabetic, na ang sugar mo ay unstable pa. Because sometimes we have seen patient na kung saan nagkaroon before ng case na either starvation ketosis yung nangyari and prolonged fasting ketoacidosis, na siya ay diabetic na hindi pa naman na-manage or hindi pa naman na-stabilize yung blood sugar. So do not do this. Okay? You can do ketogenic diet without actually pushing yourself too hard. Alam nyo dapat when to do things, when to stop. Pregnancy can also have euglycemic diabetic ketoacidosis, cocaine intoxication, and chronic liver disease. So, that's all, guys, for our discussion. I hope na marami kayong natutunan sa aming diniscuss for tonight. Ayan.
Jam-pack, di ba? So,
Jam-pack.
maraming salamat, Fee, sa napakalinaw na paliwanag. Actually, dun sa complications, as early as insulin-resistant state pa lang, pwede na siyang mag-cause ng heart attack or stroke. Yan yung mga scenario na maririnig mo sa kapitbahay na inatake sa puso si ganito or na-stroke si ganito. Tapos saka lang nalaman na diabetic pala o may high blood pala. Mm-hmm. So, as early as insulin-resistant state, pwede nang mangyari yung mga complications na nangyayari din on diabetic. Remember, diabetes is symptom of an insulin resistant. Kasi ang root cause natin talaga on diabetes, hypertension, stroke, cardiovascular disease is insulin resistant. So, ayan, ang ganda ng paliwanag ni Fee. So, meron kayong,
meron ba kayong mga tanong?
Wala na silang tanong. Ang linaw
Because, somehow, diba, Doc, parang they're always scared of diabetic ketoacidosis. Ang pinakamalinaw kasi dito, guys, there are people kasi asking, is it safe for me? Uh-huh. Of course, if it's safe for you, you must know din yung condition mo. If you are suffering from any disease, the point kasi is sometimes, yung mga pasyente natin, gusto nila i-pinpoint natin na healthy sila with just looking at them. Oh, like for example,
hindi mangyayari yun. Mahirap
like for example, kaya ang hirap sabihin na this diet, this advice is for general public. Sino ba yung papasok sa general public? And paano ko rin ba ilalagay yung sarili ko sa general public? Mm-hmm. You can only classify yourself as part of the general public if you are so sure that you are healthy, or kahit sabihin natin hindi healthy, I mean, you don't have this type of conditions that can endanger you
sabihin
when you
natin,
do such things.
In general public, healthy sila if wala ka doon sa parameters ng metabolic syndrome.
Yes.
Blood pressure of less than 120/70. Mm-hmm. Yung weight, yung triglycerides, wala yung blood pressure mo, yung weight mo. You review i-review nila yung kanilang metabolic health, yung 5 parameters na yun.
Yes.
If pasok
I-review
kayo doon sa
ninyo.
5 na yun, then I would say na sige, pwede kang pumasok doon sa general population.
Sige, you
Pero
can do this alone.
What I've
if
noticed,
you want to.
karamihan ng mga naghahanap or nagsesearch kung ano ba ang low carb diet, kung pwede ba sa akin to, is yung mga grupo ng populasyon na merong high blood, merong diabetes, obese, irregular menstruation, ano pa ba? Meron silang mga karamdaman na o meron na silang nararamdamang kakaiba sa katawan nila, or sabihin na natin meron din silang family history of diabetes, hypertension, which is nandun na sila sa high risk of having the disease itself. So, mahirap ipasok yung ganon sa general population. Hindi mo naman pwedeng sabihin na nagpa-labs ako, okay naman yung labs ko, pero ang criteria mo na okay naman ang labs ko is pagtingin mo dun sa lab mo, wala namang pula. So, di ba? So, maraming ganon. Sinasabi nila na okay naman, wala namang pula. Or sabihin natin, nagpa-check up ako, okay naman yung blood pressure ko. Pero pag tinanong mo, ano daw yung blood pressure mo? They cannot even say kung ano yung blood pressure na nakuha sa kanila sa clinic. Diba? So, lahat ng basis, lagi nandun lang kung walang pula doon sa kanilang lab works, okay sila. Yun yung basis lang.
Yes, aminin natin na most people who found and discovered low carb and intermittent fasting are people who are sick to begin with. Kasi sometimes low carb is regarded as like, ito na yung parang in my own experience, parang nagawa ko na lahat. So, I need to try this one. If you are already healthy, sometimes you will not find any other kumbaga pag comfortable ka sa katawan mo, wala kang ibang iniinda, I don't think na you're gonna be the type of person who would find another way, or kasi nag-work na sa'yo whatever you're doing right now. So, naniniwala ako dun sa sinasabi mo, Doc, na mahirap sabihin na part ka ng general population kapag ka nahanap mo yung low carb and fasting, kasi I'm pretty sure na kaya mo siya hinanap kasi you want something better than what you're doing right now. You're actually looking for something that could give you the answer kasi you have tried everything and yet hindi ka nag-i-improve. Kaya ka nandito. And same goes to clinicians like us, where we have tried mostly everything to our patient. And the reason why we took the chance, sabi natin took the chance, because before, I was not also very convinced, because as a clinician, you have to really see it yourself na may improvement.
The reason why I convert.
The reason why, di ba? Na kumbaga, hindi mo naman intensyon ng masama para sa pasyente mo, kaya nga inuuna mo yung sarili mo. Ginagawa mo siya sa sarili mo, hindi mo pa siya ginagawa sa pasyente mo. And by the time na ginawa mo siya sa pasyente mo, I'm pretty sure nagawa mo na yan sa sarili mo. Ganon yun eh. So hindi namin siya ginamit sa pasyente without us na experiencing the benefit of low carb. And so, the reason why nakita din natin to is because we tried almost everything. Giving medication, giving the usual, the traditional diet, yet dahil nakita natin na parang kulang, may iba pa. So, nahanap natin ito. So, if you want to know if this is good for you, kailangan nyo ding malaman kung ano muna yung estado ng sarili ninyo. And sa umpisa, kailangan nyo talagang aralin. Kailangan nyo talagang mag-monitor para sa ganon maging safe yung paggawa ninyo sa kanya. Ganon po kasi talaga yon. So, meron pa ba kayong mga tanong? Kasi nakikita ko talagang parang parang ang daming nagtatag. Thank you everyone for tagging people.
Yes, maraming salamat. And share the video. Share niyo po itong video na to, which is very educational, very eye-opening.
Yes, and we do not diagnose here, okay? Hindi kami dito nagda-diagnose. This video is only intended to educate people, and to all people who still have agam-agam. I hope that this video will alam mo yun, parang, oh, it makes sense. Parang ganon. Parang somehow, sige nga, can I dig deeper? And if it makes sense, di ba? Parang, sige, why don't we try? Parang ganyan. So, guys, huwag kayong matakot sa diabetic ketoacidosis if you're being monitored, if kayo ay controlled. Matakot kayo kung kayo, mostly sa mga may diabetic ketoacidosis, ito ay sila ay mga hindi diagnosed. Mostly new onset.
Most commonly
not new
undiagnosed,
onset, pero
onset,
new,
uncontrolled in the sense na hindi umiinom ng gamot. Tapos alam nila na mataas ang blood sugar. 250 milligrams per deciliter is 14 millimoles per liter. Usually kasi sa Pilipinas, millimoles per liter na. Yung mga bagong labas na nag-glucometer, millimoles per liter pero, na yung gamit. Pero there's still milligrams per DL.
Pero Doc, I wonder how other health professionals kasi ganito siya eh. I receive a patient, for example, the blood sugar is 300. And then, acidotic yung patient, and then may ketones. And then, you interviewed, ano ba nangyari? Sinabi na, hindi po kasi nakakainom ng gamot. Kain po ng ganito. Pero nag-keto diet po kasi. Nag-keto ka kasi. Kaya nag-diabetic ketoacidosis. Pero hindi pumasok sa isip mo na the patient has a blood sugar
of 300. Of about 250, of 300.
Yeah. Of about 250. So why would you associate agad that DKA is because of the ketogenic diet? When in fact, the hyperglycemic state is already a high risk factor for that patient to become diabetic ketoacidosis in the first place.
If I may add on that, Fee, hindi lang diyan hindi lang keto diet kagad yung culprit. Hindi lang based on the magkakaroon ka ng DKA. Pero there is one patient presented to you with long history of diabetes, uncontrolled. Tapos previous lab test, let's say 3 months ago, everything is okay. Tapos biglang nag-keto diet yung patient, let's say for a month, tapos biglang nagpa-labs, tapos biglang nakita the creatinine level is high, eGFR is low, there is albumin creatinine ratio sa urine is may presence na, although hindi pa naman ganun kataas, then automatically the clinician sasabihin is nag-ketogenic diet ka kasi. So it's very unfair given the long history of diabetes of more than 10 years. So hindi mo kagad mapipinpoint that the diet modification which ginawa lang ng patient for 1 month will destroy kaagad yung kidney. So, yun ba kagad ang culprit? Yun ba yung easing fall guy? Hindi ba pwedeng yung mas matagal nang nandun or yung mas matagal nang existing factor ang culprit? Bakit kaya hindi mo kagad isipin na because of the uncontrolled blood sugar, which is yun ang number 1 na reason kung bakit masisira ang kidney, isama mo pa yung uncontrolled blood pressure. Kung consistent na 140/80 na ang blood pressure ng patient for the longest time at walang medications, pero wala siyang nararamdaman, sasabihin ng pasyente, hindi po ako hypertensive, pero ang blood pressure mo is 140/80 na, tapos wala kang medication. Based on guidelines, kung guidelines lang din ang pag-uusapan natin, is 120/70 lang ang guidelines para masabing normal ang blood pressure mo. If you go beyond 120/70, nasa ka na, pre-hypertensive or hypertensive stage 1. So, which is, pwede mo pa rin siyang culprit for the reason kung bakit nasira yung kidney. Rather than 1 month of changing your diet, is culprit for the damage in the kidney, di ba?
Yes, Doc. Also, Doc, there is one instance pa na like, for example, what is this? There are patients who just suddenly stop all their medication when they do the low carb. Like, nalaman ko that low carb can help me with my diabetes. And then this patient without consulting a doctor just because they cannot find a low-carb doctor. Most of them, that is the reason. I've heard of people, Doc, ini-stop ko na on my own kasi wala akong mahanap na low-carb doctor that will
Available
support me.
AHHA.
Ay, gosh, yes. So, you cannot. Pero, you know, no low-carb physician will advise you to just stop your medication kasi meron tayong titration na tinatawag. We can slowly nabawasan yung medication ninyo depending on the monitoring level. We do not advise you to just stop your medication, lalo na kung hindi pa talaga maganda yung compliance nyo. Unang-una sa lahat, kung kaya nyo, kasi meron kaming mga tinitignan, like for example, consistent ka ba if gagawin mo yung low carb? Paano mo siya ginagawa? Tama din ba? And there are other factors. How is your body responding with your new diet? So, meron mga ganyan na instances, and other people just discontinue all their meds. All their meds, like, kami nga takot eh. Kayo pa? Like, bakit nyo biglang tinanggal? And then after that, sabi ni Doc, dahil daw sa low carb, kaya ako nag-DKA, sabi sa ER. Pinagalitan na, pati kami nadamay. Pati tuloy mga advocates nadamay, mali kasi ina-advocate. Unang-una sa lahat, you discontinued your medication. You have a blood sugar of so high. Another thing is, I remember si Doc Mike, meron siyang annual examination. And then, the ketones in the urine is like +2 or +3. And nagulat sila, and then they were so scared na, Doc, ang taas ng ketones mo, ganyan. At that time, kako-convert niya with strict carnivore. Takot sila kasi taas. Samantalang yung blood sugar niya sobrang baba. And wala siyang symptoms. Wala din siyang tawag dito, hypertension and such. And then natakot sila, parang gusto nilang paulitin pa yung ihi niya kung pwede lang. Kaso syempre, dahil doktor siya, and parang kinda like, okay, sige. Kasi sabi niya, okay lang yan. I just want to know. Hindi naman na niya gustong i-explain because it's very hard to explain to them that, of course, when you shifted to a strict na mas mababa yung carbohydrate, your body doesn't know how to handle it yet. So, naiihi mo siya. Kaya nga, may mga tao din, no, na, Doktor, hindi ako nagkiketosis kasi wala na pong ketone sa ihi ko. Naka-encounter ka na ng ganun, Doc?
A lot.
Sinasabi ko sa kanila na, somehow, if you are on a consistent and keto adaptation, iba ang fat adaptation sa keto adaptation, guys, ha? When you're in keto adaptation, your body knows how to handle na the ketones. So the ketones can only be detected na on the blood. There is certain time where your ketones can only be detected in the blood na and not detected in the urine anymore. Not unless nag-shift ka, like for example, low carb ka, tapos bigla ka nag-keto ulit.
Yo-yo diet.
So mag-yo-yo diet ka. So ifa-flush na naman niya ulit yan. So those are the things that you need to understand. And siksik-liglig tayo ngayong gabi ha ng discussion. Yeah, so I hope na next week kasi is our Q&A because we're gonna be closing on our diabetes topic. So lahat po ng mga nanonood ngayon, we are announcing here already that next week will be our question and answer live. Para sa ganon, yung iba na gusto nyong tanungin about insulin resistance and diabetes could be entertained kasi alam naman namin na maybe yung mga nile-lecture namin akala namin relevant pero hindi pala relevant sa inyo. So we'll be giving you time para yung relevant for you could be asked. But kailangan nyo maintindihan, do not ask anything na parang consultation because we are not going to diagnose or treat you because this is not the proper na platform. So, any questions po? Parang walang questions, ano? Wala bang questions dyan? Dali na. Ayan. So, dahil dyan,
I would just like
course,
to acknowledge yung presence ni Coach Dave ng LCIF, yes, the founder of the LCIF. So, thank you for dropping by. And ito pa, si and her
Parang
wife,
hindi daw tayo. Parang hindi
and her
nag-TF.
wife, Ara, who is celebrating their anniversary today. So, welcome and thank you for joining us tonight.
Kahit na sleeping time na rin dapat. And we have other personalities here. We have ang ating mga kasama na low carb advocates, sina Eileen. Here si Attorney Gilio. Thank you for always supporting our advocacy and our page. Salamat po sa inyo. And also, who else are here? We have regular viewers like sila Mami Bridget, lagi ko siyang nakikita here. Sila Ma'am Yen. So, salamat po sa inyong support. I know that it's not much to ask, but please like and follow our page because that's how the algorithm works. If you do not support, then fewer people can watch and fewer people can actually be can actually learn from us. So I hope that you can help us grow, not just to grow our page, but to grow the audience and to grow our reach. That's the only way kasi we could be helpful to other people.
Yeah,
also,
para mas maraming mag-benefit.
Mas maraming mag-benefit. And of course, we will be taking our chance to also share to you if you need consultations. We have physicians. I am part of AHA by Atensios, but Doc Mike is also part of AHA by Atensios. So this is the only page that we entertain yung mga inquiries ng consultation.
I'm still on leave.
But si Doc Suzette at my low carb MD is still on study leave, and we will all benefit from that leave because she's also studying and expanding her knowledge about low carb and ketogenic diet for the benefit ng mga conditions, especially metabolic health and yung lifestyle diseases. So hayaan muna natin siyang mag-aral. Somehow, ganyan talaga. Next time kami naman yung naka-leave, ganun lang talaga, salo-saluhan lang yan. But these are the sites. We also have our partner dietitian, which we are so thankful and grateful na meron na tayong low carb or therapeutic carbohydrate restriction dietitian dito sa Philippines because we don't have much. May mga dietitian na naglo-low carb dito sa Philippines, but I think part of it is being afraid of being scrutinized and discriminated as an advocate of low carb and ketogenic diet. And of course, being part of the Atensios and the advocacy. We are very much supporting Bern. Sabi ko nga sa kanya, I know that it's hard because somehow you will create not naman enemies, but you will be scrutinized for this. But remember that this is for greater good. And we are happy na nakasama namin siya. And it's our pleasure. So if you need dietitian consultations, you can go to her, but you still need a physician consultation. Alam ko na nagtataka yung iba, Doc, when they go to Bern, pinapasa siya sa atin, either sa'yo or sa amin. Because, she's not a doctor. So, basically, she cannot interpret the laboratory and just diagnose a patient. So, in order for the diet na gagawin niya to be safe to the patient, dapat alam niya yung considerations ng pasyente and yung kabuuan ng kalagayan ng pasyente. And yan yung partnership na meron tayo sa kanya. Because somehow, there is a communication between a doctor and a dietitian which is not always present in our community because sometimes as a doctor you'll just give the prescription to your patient and just go to a dietitian and then wala nang communication yung dietitian to the doctor. So yun yung maganda, good thing because we can actually talk about the patient and mapag-usapan what is our goal and are we reaching the goal for the patient. And lastly, of course, I also have a personal health and wellness page. But don't send any private messages here because I literally don't read any personal messages, sometimes even the comments. So I'm just gonna be sharing and sharing and sharing. Mas mag-comment pa siguro kayo dito sa doctor's desk because at least nandito kami ni Doc, ni Doc Suzette, pero paras kaming tamad kasi talaga. So sabi ko nga sa inyo, abusuhin nyo na lang kami every live because this is the only time we can share to you things. Aside from that, wala na kaming ibang, parang siguro sabihin natin, sa ngayon, wala pa kaming ibang
Sa ngayon,
energy.
yes.
Yes,
sa ngayon,
energy to
muna.
give a lot.
Kalma lang.
Ayan. Kalma lang guys. Parehas kami introvert. We're doing this kasi kailangan namin ng isa't isa, like kahit moral support ng bawat isa to continue doing this. Kasi kung hindi, pag ako lang, ay Kebs, kahit akin na lang ang siyensya na alam ko, sabay ganun. So yun lang guys, thank you so much for watching and for supporting us. May mga iba pang tanong dito, like mga gallstone and all. Diabetes muna tayo, hinay-hinay lang po. Kasi mas maganda na one topic at a time para hindi po
darating din tayo dyan.
Hindi po kayo masyadong hirap.
Lahat ng diabetes question will answer next week.
At para hindi rin kayo litong-lito. So, isang topic lang at a time. Actually, ganun din naman sa food, di ba? Hindi mo naman kayang pagkasyahin lahat sa bibig mo at i-digest. So, give it a time, guys, to digest. Chew it. Chew it very well. Ganon. So, yun lang po. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye-bye.
And see you again next week. Bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.